So, welcome to our very first Stories of Transformation. I am Tracy Jane Hughes, and together with Deborah Marie Isis, we run Awakening Horizons. We are pioneering leaders of a global movement of transformational change. And we are so excited to have Bridget Finklaire with us today, who is such an amazing woman. Bridget is an author and spiritual teacher with almost 30 years of experience. As a qualified psychotherapist, hypnotherapist, and healer, she worked in London's Harley Street. Bridget left England in 2012 for Cape Town, where she met her South African husband. And your debut novel, Red Dress, was launched in July 21, and I have my copy here, which I absolutely loved. And you've got such a vast wealth of talent and wisdom and information that, you know, you've weaved it all together, Bridget, through your Bone Circle, a unique, transformative and life-changing program, tying together three significant areas of what makes your heart sing. You know, your wisdom, your intuition and creating, the sacred and the metaphysical, and therapy and healing. And, you know, just being here today with you and having read, you know, the Red Dress when it launched last year, it's just so inspiring to be with you today, to listen to some of your transformational stories. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Tracy Jane, for inviting me, and Deborah, and thank you for that introduction. Is that really me?
Yes, that is all you. And you know, and we had the pleasure of listening to a snippet from Red Dress when you joined our pod community. So our People of Difference community that we run, our global community of transformational change, for people who have learned how to harness their intuition. And you know, you kindly came and read some of your book last year, interviewed by one of our then pod members. And it was just so inspiring to hear the story of Katy starting to unfold, and her transformational story. And it's really, you know, just fascinating how you've sort of weaved everything together into, you know, this fun book. And it's a really fun story. And just seeing somebody like Katy, you know, take charge of her life and learn how to transform herself through some of those things that, you know, you clearly live your life by.
For sure, yeah. I mean, the reason I set off to write Red Dress in the first place, and Deborah will know a little bit about this because we've known each other a while. She's sitting there with Roxy, her dog looks beautiful. The reason I set off to write it was actually to write something that was fun and accessible. As you said, it's a fun story. You can just get into the story. If you don't want to do anything else, you can just get into the story and the characters. The characters are very rounded and real. But I wanted to be able to share these pearls of wisdom with other people and show them different alternative pathways to take, if you like, pathways that awaken their consciousness, pathways that enable them to heal, pathways that enable them to become aware, to see what's playing out in their life, to see why maybe they're not fulfilled, or they're feeling afraid, or they're feeling sad, or they're feeling lonely, to just have a look at that. And also just gives a model for what it's like to go to therapy, because I think a lot of people are a bit afraid about going to therapy. Oh, I don't want to go to a therapist. You know, there's a bit of a stigma around it. And Katy, who's the central character in Red Dress, is in fact a Harley Street psychotherapist and hypnotherapist, which is what I was. So they say write about what you know. And so she embarks on a series of therapy sessions with her mentor, who's a guy called Terry. So we actually get to see, the reader gets to see what it's like to have a therapy session. But also she's on this spiritual path. So she's discovering all these different things and all these different techniques, and she's basically discovering that there's more to life than our five senses. And she embarks on this whole journey where she's being guided and aided and abetted by her friends as well, who are also part of this group, which she calls Moses, the movement of spiritually enlightened souls. So it's funny in places, it's laugh out loud in places, but it's also serious, and it's very much mapping a lot of people's lives, because the central character, Katy, is in her 40s. She's got 2 teenage children. She's having trouble with her daughter, who's a bit arsey, and the son's quite sweet still. He hasn't actually got that old yet, and also her husband's not a very nice piece of work. So she's kind of trapped in a loveless marriage, and she's a career mum, and she's doing too much, and she's burning out, and she really is burning out, and has no time for herself. And I think there are probably millions of women around the world who can identify with that. Might not have quite the same setup, but can identify with having to do it all. So even if you just read it at that level, you can read it as at the level of just, it's this woman who's in this terrible situation. She should be pleased because her life is successful. And how does she unravel that and find the answers? And the things in Red Dress are authentic. So the reader can follow those and dip in and out of them, if you like. You know, she meditates. It tells you in the book exactly how she does it. You can just copy it. So on the one level, it's kind of can be a fun story. It's also looking at personal development in a way. It's a story about dysfunctional relationships in another way, because there's all sorts of relationship dynamics playing out. And then it's a spiritual awakening as well. So you can take it at whatever level you like. But I'm so glad that you've read it, and I know both of you've read it.
Yeah, I've read it. Yeah, it's amazing, and definitely couldn't put it down. It went everywhere with me. Every moment I had to sit down and wait for an appointment. Oh, quick, get the book out.
Thank you. A lot of people have said brilliant. It's a page turner, and they really.
Yeah,
I mean, if you have got any kind of awareness of something more than the kind of ordinary life of wake up, go to work, come home, watch telly, go to bed. If you've got anything more than that, you will enjoy Red Dress. So.
Yeah.
No,
brilliant. Cannot wait for the next one, Bridget.
Yeah, well, I'm about a third of the way through the next one. There is a sequel. In fact, there's going to be a trilogy of books following Katy. The second one is about a third of the way written, and I need to get into it, but I had to just step back and take a bit of time out because I had a few health issues and I just needed to sort those out. I'm on the mend, nothing serious. So I am hoping that I'm in my end result, as we would say, and vision of sort of by Easter, me being firing on all 4 cylinders, and at that point I will start writing again. I've also got another book in the offing with the publisher who's asked me to write a non-fiction, and it's in a series. I think there's 8 of the authors are going to write it. It's called My Paranormal Life. So they want me to talk a little bit more about things like ghost busting and tuning into different realities, and it will tell you a little bit more about my personal story, and that needs to be finished by the end of the year. So I've got quite a lot on my plate, but hoping to get that book out as soon as I can.
Yeah, and all super exciting, super exciting. So just wanted to, I'm aware that, I live my life intuitively, where you live your life intuitively. That's what our training, Awakening Horizons, it's all about training people to harness their intuition. And, we have a pod community for people of difference, and people can't actually come into the community until they've harnessed their intuition, because, it's amazing and living magically. So just wondered, like, your share on, like, how has living intuitively it changed your life, transformed your life?
It's a great question. Thank you, Deborah. So I think the first thing to say is that I've always been about transformation, and I think if you look back over your life, you'll start to see things about your passions and purpose that have always been there. And I've always been about transformation, whether that's transforming a house into a home, or whether it's transforming the way I look and the clothes I wear, or whether it's being a therapist in Harley Street and transforming other people's lives. I've always been about transformation. So that's always been this running current throughout my life. And I've kind of had these different incarnations, if you like, these different ways, even that I look, there's times where I had very short, straight, dark hair, and other times when I had long flowing hair, and there's different eras and transformations involved. And my whole life has been about self-transformation. But the intuition was brilliant, because I think we've all got intuition and it's always there, but we don't always know how to listen to it, or to trust it, or to distinguish between the intuitive knowing and just your thoughts and feelings. It's very difficult, even as a spiritual person who meditates and who is quite intuitive, to really, really be able to go, yeah, that's my intuition and that's not. And you need to really know what is your intuition, because then that's your true north. That's what you're going to follow. That's your highest truth. So whatever else is playing out, where you're going, I can't do that, I can't move to Africa, I can't write a book, you can know that doesn't matter, because you've got your true north. So training in my intuition which I did with Deborah. How long ago was that now, Deborah?
No, I keep saying 7 years, but the years keep going.
It's actually 10 years, isn't it? Because it was 2012 that I met you, and we're now in 2022. So that working properly, being trained in intuition, which is the work that you're doing with your Awakening Horizons, that is really invaluable. Because once you can do that, it expands your horizons. It really does. Because you start to tap into a higher part of you, a higher level of consciousness that actually understands the bigger picture and that isn't limited by all of the conditioning of life. And once you can tap into that and start creating from there, then your life is basically on the right track. You're on the right track. You're in the divine plan that your soul had for you. And from there, it's not saying that life's going to be easy, by the way. It might not be easy. It might be challenging, but overarchingly, it will be enjoyable. It will be exciting. It will be fulfilling, and there'll be something that you're working on. And you know how it is when you've got a project that you love and you're going to work on that, even if it's just something at home. You want to bake a cake, or you want to do a garden or decorate a room. It's really exciting, isn't it, to go, oh, I'm going to decorate the spare room, and we're going to start looking at colours and how you're going to decorate it, and then you start actually doing it, and then at the end you've got this amazing room, and it's just a really exciting thing. So to continually be in this creative orientation is really the stuff of life. So I think it's been a fundamental turning point, and it amplified what was already there for me as a spiritual person. It amplified the intuition that was already there, and the go-getter that was always in me and making these drastic changes. I mean, I think I was about, I was in my late 30s when I trained as a therapist, for example. Just completely changed tack. So it amplified all of that, and it's been completely brilliant, I have to say. In the last 10 years, my life has utterly and completely changed. So very valuable stuff.
Amazing. Not for the faint-hearted, I always say, but no. Helen Keller, isn't it? Life's a daring adventure and nothing at all. You definitely go on a daring adventure, don't you, when you venture into intuition? And
interesting that, isn't it? Because we love watching films and telly and stuff, and it's always a daring adventure. And we sit in our homes, on our sofas thinking, oh, I wish I could. And there's something exciting. We're living that adventure through somebody in a film or a book. And that's still well and good, and there's nothing wrong with that. But how much more enriching it is to actually live our own adventure.
It is.
Yeah, and being on our own hero's journey. I'd never even heard of the hero's journey before I met Deborah. But we absolutely, we're on our hero's journey in life anyway. For those of you not familiar with the term hero's journey, it came from Joseph Campbell, who did so much research and pulling, all sorts of information together from mythology, from, how communities live their lives. We are all on our hero's journey, but we absolutely can go on our own adventure, and we're doing it anyway, whether we're conscious of it or not. And that's something that I think comes out in the work that you do, Bridget.
Yeah, for sure. And I think when you're not conscious that you're on a hero's journey, you're just being buffeted about by the waves of life. And often you're refusing the call to adventure, which is one of the stages in the journey. But once you know that, you can use it as a map and a plot, because it deeply resonates with the psyche. And there's lots of books about it, and as you said, it comes from Joseph Campbell. Sometimes people call it the monomyth. And if you want to go to my YouTube channel, which is Bridget Finklaire, The Bone Circle, there's two. I've got Bridget Finklaire author and The Bone Circle by Bridget Finklaire. If you go to the Bone Circle one, there is a little short 10-minute video about that just plots the hero's journey and how it relates to people's lives. If you want to take a look, please feel free.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, so I keep hearing you mention this consciousness word. So just people always asking, what is that? What is that consciousness stuff? So what would be your answer to that, Bridget?
This is going to be a huge answer, probably. Thanks for asking the question. So really, consciousness is everything about what I am. And if we are going to transform, it means a transformation in consciousness. So what is consciousness? Well, I think most people, if you just on the street and said, oh, what's consciousness? They would probably think about what's unconscious. So if you were on an operating theatre, you'd be knocked out in the boxing ring, or unconscious. And if you're not, and you're walking around, you're conscious. Well, it's much, much bigger and wider and more complex and greater than that. So if we look at, say, for example, the Kybalion and the teachings of Thoth Hermes Trismegistus, it says that one of the premises in that is that the universe is mental, which is kind of funny, and I've actually incorporated that in Red Dress as a funny way of looking at it. But what it actually means is that the universe is based on thought and mind. And if I go to my teachings of the Keys of Enoch, which is my absolute passion, my personal passion, which I teach and study, we talk about the divine mind that's at the center of the multiverse, not just the universe, but the cosmos, the multiverse, on all levels and realms, by the way, not just this physical realm. So at the center of the universe is this divine mind. So then we can get an idea of what consciousness is. So everything is created from the thought forms of this divine mind. And so thought forms are incredibly powerful, but they're powerful through different stages. So imagine that there are, infinite numbers actually of realms and infinite levels, and it's like a ladder in a way, or like bubbles that are concentric inside each other. So the wider your consciousness, or the greater your consciousness, the higher the vibration, and the more you'll understand, the more powerful you are as well, in terms of creating, in terms of what you do with your thoughts. But if we take it back, we've got a bit cosmic now, so let's just bring it back to the individual. As you go on any kind of journey of spiritual awakening or personal development, or even therapy, what you're doing is becoming aware. You're becoming more aware, and that's consciousness. At the cosmic level, consciousness is emanated out along with love and light to create different realms of creation, planetary spheres, all that sort of stuff. So consciousness is the linking point, it's the linkage. It's really connected with the Divine Mother and the Shekinah and the Holy Spirit, which is the Ruach HaKodesh, or Agios Pneuma in Greek. So that is the connecting force that binds everything, that holds everything. So consciousness is part and parcel of that emanation. So consciousness is what links all these different realms and vibrations. And it's consciousness that links you with your higher self or your greatness to get that intuition, because the intuition is the multidimensional mind, or the right brain, or the intuitive mind, which Einstein famously said was more important than the rational mind. So consciousness taps into different levels of understanding and awareness in different dimensions, because it's the great connector. Also, the more aware you become, the more conscious you become, because the two are integrated and inextricably linked. And one of the metaphors that I use to try and describe it in a really very simple, basic way is to imagine an enormous tall block of flats, or block of offices. If you were living in the basement or working in the basement, you don't have much of a view, you don't see very much, you're not aware of very much. You're just sitting there beavering away at your desk working. Or if it's, let's take it as a home, you're sitting in your home, listening to your music, making your cake or whatever you're doing. If you live on the first floor, you can see a little bit more. You can see the park around you in the trees. Imagine if you lived on like the 60th floor. Imagine how much you can see from the 60th floor. And so it's a bit like that with consciousness. Now, most people have to take the long spiral staircase step by step to awaken themselves, to understand more. Some lucky people have things like near-death experiences. I don't know whether they're lucky or whether soul chose it, probably the soul chose it, but they have something that wakes them up quickly and they go whoop to the top of that building. Sometimes people have an experience that takes them to the top, they fall back down, then they've got to make their way up, but it was just to show them that it exists. But as you become more aware, you can become more aware of yourself, so that's know thyself. What's happening with me? What patterns of sabotage do I have? Know your greater self and your intuitive self and your soul purpose and your soul self and your higher self, which itself is evolving and is open-ended. And then also starting to become aware of things like, oh, well, if I just throw that plastic bottle away, that's not going to be very good for the planet. Or, starting to become aware of our connection with nature and our connection with each other and our connection with even other beings, because we know we're not alone in the universe. And as we become aware that our actions have a ripple effect and affect other people, then we choose better actions. So as we know better, we do better. And that's just raising consciousness. So for me, it's absolutely fundamental to everything that I do and everything I did do as all my life, really. And my life has been about expanding my own consciousness and raising it and opening it. And really, if we look at now where we are in the earth, on planet Earth, there's a hell of a lot of stuff playing out, okay? And we're in this sort of chaotic period, very, very chaotic period, and we're seeing a polarization. And that's because we're going through what the prophecies would say is the end times. But what they don't tell you is it's a new beginning time as well, because there's a new beginning when it comes to an end. There's a new beginning because life is eternal and infinite. So we're going into a new beginning. So there's an opportunity to raise vibration. Now, the only way we're going to go into that new beginning is to go into fifth dimension and higher. And the only way we're going to do that is by raising our consciousness, because if our consciousness is not high enough to vibrate at that vibration of love, basically unconditional love, then we can't go there. It's not that we're not allowed there. It's like I haven't put enough petrol in my car, so I can't get to where I'm going. It's as simple as that. I haven't actually got the light energy inside of me to get me there. So if we want to see an evolution in consciousness of humanity where we are not sort of part of subterfuge and wars which are playing out, and greed which is playing out, and corruption which is playing out, if we want to go into a space which is more connected, say, to the Divine Mother, which is about compassion and wisdom and forgiveness and love and light and kindness and gentleness, we have to raise our vibration. So that's kind of what consciousness is. And while we're talking about this, and we just mentioned about the chaos in the world right now, and I'm aware that as we make this recording right now, Russia's just invaded Ukraine. Now, we don't know where that's going to go, but we do know there's unrest across the world, and we don't know exactly what's playing out, but I suspect things may get worse before they get better. In fact, that's what prophecy is telling us. And it's extremely important that we focus on the higher plan, that we focus on our greatness, that we focus on what we're here to do, because we each have a role to play in this. It's extremely important that we keep our vibration high and don't get spiraled in to the chaos and the war and the sadness that's playing out. And of course, you're going to feel sad, and that's okay. You can feel that, and then you acknowledge that, and then you refocus. So what I'd love to do, if you will allow me, is to work with the higher vibration. So there's a lot of sacred divine names, and there's a lot of there's 5 different languages actually of sacred divine names. There's Sanskrit, Chinese, Egyptian, I can't remember, Chinese, Sanskrit, Egyptian, Hebrew, and Tibetan are the 5 sacred languages of the world. And so anything you chant in those languages, it's got a very high vibration. It's connecting you to another higher vibration. So if you think about Om Shanti, which people often chant at the end of their yoga, which is also peace, it's a higher vibration. It's a Sanskrit expression. So I would like if we could all focus our intention, because when you focus your intention and those thought forms together on one thing, it's extremely powerful. And there's lots of studies that have shown that, so you can go and look at that if you want to and research it. If we add in a divine name, which has an extremely high vibration that's coming from a very high place, that empowers it infinitely as we send it out. So let's just do that. We're going to do a visualization, and we're going to sing it 12 times. And there's a reason for 12, but I'm not going to go into that because we're straying into Keys of Enoch. I want to thank Dr. J.J. Hurtak for giving us these sacred names. And I'm going to read a little bit, and then I'll lead you in a chant. And what I'd love you to do is, wherever you are, wherever you're listening to this, whenever you're listening to this, whether you're listening live or later, please sing along at home with me. I'm going to ask Deborah just to mute herself when we sing, so that because Zoom is not very good with multiple voices. So we're going to look at the name Oseh, or O-S-E, Oseh Shalom. And we know that Shalom means peace. And Oseh Shalom means the creator or creation of peace from the higher heavenly dimensions, especially for a given purpose. And our given purpose today is to surround the planet in peace. It's for planetary peace. So the name is used for the creator or the creation of great peace that reconciles our world with other worlds or higher worlds. We can manifest an aspect of this peace if we call upon this divine name. It is also the peace through which the higher intelligence, we can think of those as angels or angelics or lords of light or masters, through which the higher intelligence works in support of human intelligence, because we don't have to do it alone. We can call upon these higher powers, as well as that power which works as a shield, and we think of a shield as protection. So we're going to, in a moment, visualize, and I'm actually going to just combine two things actually. We're going to visualize myriad prisms, you know what a prism looks like on the front of Dark Side of the Moon, a myriad prisms reflecting and transposing the light of peace. And we're going to use that power of the divine energy to sustain our work collectively, all of us here online today and anybody listening afterwards, towards the extension of peace. We can send peace to the entire planet or to a part of the planet by a means of interlocking triangles of light connected with colour and music. So feel that divine peace right now that begins to pour over your body. You can visualize it and feel it as a blue-violet ray which emanates a tremendous resonance of peace and love. So let us visualize these triangles of light interconnecting, with each triangle surrounded by 3 encircling doves. And we're going to send that around the planet to wherever we feel it's most needed, with that trinity balance of love, peace and harmony. And we ask that this light of peace is sent with our heartbeats, with our breath, with our voices, with our minds, as we radiate pure consciousness thoughts from the divine right now. And we're going to sing it. Ose Shalom, 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 Ose Shalom. And we visualize these triangles of light, these prisms of light, these rays of different colors, with the white doves encircling it, the doves of love, peace and harmony surrounding the planet, focused today on the Ukraine and Canada and Russia and wherever else needs this peace. And we offer up this mantra, this meditation, this song, these vibrations to all who need it, as we seal this with 4 amens. Amen just means this is the truth, and the 4 takes us beyond the 3 dimensions. So amen, 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 and amen. Thank you for allowing me to do that.
Wow, thank you, Bridget. That was just, yeah, incredible. Just my whole body is tingling.
Mine too.
You know, and even just having that new awareness of consciousness and the connectivity and the power of focus, that, you know, often we feel that we're too insignificant, that we can't do anything, but when we focus together, we can create and surround people with a wave of love and peace. And yeah, thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure. I mean, it feeds into a little bit the work of Lynn McTaggart when she talks about power of 8. It takes 8 people to intend, and I think group work is actually really powerful. And we can make a difference. It's like that story of the little girl on the beach with the starfish, isn't it? And she's covered in starfish. You must know that story. And she's throwing one at a time into the sea. And somebody goes, well, what are you doing? She goes, I'm saving them. She goes, well, you're not going to be saving all of these. She goes, no, but I can save that one. And that's and so we, you know, we might think we're not doing anything, but there's probably, you know, probably hundreds of people around the planet also at the same time praying for peace or thinking of peace while you're doing it. And so your collective effort is huge. And this is also one of the things that is very dear to my heart, that together we rise, together we're strong, together we go far. Got to help each other.
Yeah, just to add on to that, every Monday in the pod, in the community, we do what we call a global end result. So we do a global end result for the world, you know, holding that high vibration, and we all, you know, we all put out that intention to receive it intuitively. You know, we all share it together collectively, and it's amazing that every single week there's the same theme. You know, and it just changes from week to week, but everybody's got the same theme, and we just choose those and we intend them and we put them out to the world. And we, you know, when we come back the Monday after, we don't always know where that's gone or what's happened, but we know, you know, we've put our little bit of you know, higher vibration out into the world. So
that's a beautiful practice to do, and also it benefits you as well. That's what Linda Taggart found, that when the group of 8 were intending for one person or one place or one thing, they themselves were in that healing energy and being healed by it. So it's a very powerful thing to do. And it's interesting what you said, Deborah, about how you've all the same theme comes up with everybody, and there is your connective of, you know, even Carl Jung talked about a collective unconscious. So there's a collective consciousness there that you're tapping into, that's a higher consciousness. So you're all pulling that same thing from the cloud.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. I love it. Yeah, I look forward to it every week. It's amazing. I love it.
Awesome. And it's part of our, you know, Awakening Horizons structure, and sort of, you know, how we, you know, support people to live their higher purpose, and to, you know, to continue to harness their intuition throughout all of their life. You know, it's that wholly embracing it throughout everything that they do. And, you know, yes, we have a global end result, but we also, in that session, we have a personal end result, you know, we create intuitively for the week ahead. So it's sort of, you know, helping people who are new to harnessing their intuition to continue that practice, because it does take practice. You know, it's not just a habit. It is wholly embracing everything that you've learned, and sort of, you know, tapping into and harnessing that intuition, you know, for that consciously creating the life of your dreams. You know, we know that you've absolutely embraced all of that, Bridget, and you lead others in that throughout all of your work.
Yeah, it's lovely that you're doing that for your pod and your people and your training at Awakening Horizons, because I think that is the thing, that when people first step into this world, it feels a bit daunting, and it just feels like something on the side that you bolt onto your life. And actually it's not, it's a way of life, that you eventually realize it's a way of life, and you have to wholly embrace that thing. But some people just do need to be held in that space while they're going through that. And it's like everything else. You can't pick up a violin and play it straight away, or go to a yoga class and do it straight away. You have to go and practice, and there's a dedication and a practice to anything, and it's the same with living your life intuitively. So what a great space to nurture people. Fantastic work.
Thank you. Awesome.
So just we're sort of coming to the end of our time together, and I know that I could absolutely listen to you for hours and hours, Bridget. So, you know, maybe we can invite you on at a future time, and
I'm always happy to come back as a returning guest.
Yeah, but just, you know, just before we do, if you could go back in time, so, you know, you are a very wise, you've done lots of learning, you do lots of teaching, you've, you know, transformed your life many times. With all of that wisdom, of everything that you know now, if you could go back in time to give your 21-year-old self some advice, what would it be?
Love yourself.
Just before you answer, you've answered, but this was we put it out to the pod for questions for you, and this was one of the questions that, you know, members said to ask you. So, but love yourself.
The interesting thing is, I've come so far since that 21-year-old that I could probably spend a whole weekend with her. But if I just had to say one thing, and we just had that, you know, one thing, I would think it would be love yourself. Because I don't think that 21-year-old loved, well, I know that 21-year-old didn't love herself.
No.
She felt she was ugly, she was this and that and the other, and she wasn't pretty enough, and she wasn't clever enough, and she wasn't this enough, and she wasn't that enough, and she got herself into lots of scrapes because she didn't love herself. And if I could tell her, just love yourself, and also it's all going to be okay. You know, you'll get through this, you're going to be okay, you're going to look back on this one day and smile. That would also be important, I guess. But yeah, I'm with you, even. I'm with you. I'm watching over you. I'm your older self, and I know exactly that everything's going to be fine. You're not alone. Love yourself. But I think love yourself is probably something that a lot of spiritual people need to be told, because most spiritual people are all about giving. Giving, not receiving. And the reason they don't receive is that in somewhere deeply in the psyche, they don't feel worthy of or lovable enough or loved. They don't love themselves enough to feel that they're worthy of receiving. And so they keep giving. So there's something, and I think that's not just spiritual people, maybe quite a lot of women have that. I think because we've been living in a patriarchal society for so long. So women have been devalued for millennia. So love yourself. And it's going to be okay.
I mean, you know, and I absolutely love that, but I suppose I'm just you know, I'm just conscious of my own 16-year-old daughter, you know, and if I said to her, just love yourself, she'd go like, how, you know, like, I mean, it's easier said than done, isn't it? You know, when you're that age, because, you know, I didn't love myself either when I was going through teenage years, and well, for a very long time, probably, you know, because it's that my thing, I'll put everybody else's needs first, you know, everybody else is more important than me, it's fine, you know. So any little snippet of how we do that, apart going on our trainings and
you know what? I
doing
think
your trainings, and
to understand that your soul chose what happened to you. It's huge. I remember when I first heard that, it was about 20 years ago. And it was a lady called Karen Kingston who wrote a book called Sacred Space with Feng Shui or something. She came from Bali, and she stood up in this small gathering. I was at the Feng Shui Society. I was, you know, on the board of the Feng Shui Society. In those days, I used to do Feng Shui. It must have been more than 25 years ago or something. And she stood up and she said, you know, you chose your parents. I thought, I didn't. There's no way I chose them. There's no mistake here. But actually, your soul did choose your path and your wounding. And it chose it for a really high purpose and for really good purpose. Because in every horrible situation, there's a silver lining, if you can find it. And the silver lining is all the learnings and understandings that you gain from that. Unfortunately, there is no magic wand to help someone love themselves. And it took me, you know, 40 odd, not quite 40, 30 odd years to love myself. And that was a journey, and it goes back into the hero's journey and the fact, and again, it feeds into the bone circle and the work I did as a therapist. Sometimes we need some help, some professional help. Another pair of eyes knows how to guide us through that hero's journey, through what happened to us that made us decide we weren't lovable, and to begin to unravel that and see it. Again, comes to awareness and consciousness. Have the consciousness to go back and really see it for what it was and be able to let it go. But you do need to see it and understand it and be aware of it, and stand in the red hot fire, because the pain is inherent here and suffering is optional. If you don't do it, you'll suffer for years not loving yourself. If you do it, you'll stand in the pain of what actually happened to create that situation. But the more you can heal the past and let go of the past, it creates a space within you for more light, love and peace to come in, and therefore a higher consciousness. So it's all part of everything we've been talking about, and really it's a journey. And I think I know it sounds a bit flippant, but the first thing to do is to choose it, because you tell your 16-year-old daughter you've got to love yourself. Oh yeah, how am I going to do that then? You know, because that's how teenagers are. I'm sure you're
that's just how it is.
Mum, don't be so stupid. That's what my mum would used to say. Oh, Mum. Kevin. So if you've got, somebody's sort of saying, you need to love yourself. Oh, yeah. The first thing to do is to choose it. There's a real power in choosing and intending, as we know with this work, the work you teach, the work I teach. Choosing and intending is powerful. So even if you feel completely powerless and you don't love yourself and think it's completely ridiculous and it's utterly impossible, just go, I choose to love myself. And if you can't do that, say, I choose to find the path that leads to me loving myself.
Yeah. Oh, that's
and that path will open up.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's lovely. All tingly.
Always so much wisdom, Bridget. You know, thank you so much.
Bless
so
you.
Bridget, people can contact you, find you through your website, bridgetfinklaire.com, and I will absolutely put the links alongside this interview so that people can just click the link really easily. And I just love your favorite saying is an African one: if you want to go fast, go alone; if you want to go far, go together. And again, that's been absolutely what we've been talking about here today. Just we all need that support. The hero's journey is very much, you meet a guide, whatever shape, form that might be for you at that particular point on your journey. And I know that you are an incredible mentor, guide, teacher, and it's been a real pleasure to spend this time with you today. And just from our point of view, from Awakening Horizons, people who are join the Awakening Horizons trainings, go to new depths, find their own hidden secrets. It's going on a hero's journey to find yourself, to know yourself, to start loving yourself if you don't already, to continue loving yourself and to raise that consciousness, and absolutely taking yourself to new levels, to new horizons. It's no surprise that we're called Awakening Horizons, is it, Deborah?
That's a good name.
No, yeah.
No, I agree with you. Sorry, go on, Deborah.
No, it just literally made me realise today that the awakening means lots of things, but it's also awakening people to the consciousness, isn't it? To the higher consciousness, and raising that consciousness, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, and the fact that you talked about the hero's journey, and you can't do it alone. You cannot do the hero's journey alone. No. You have to have your mentor, but you also have to have your hero partners.
Yeah.
And if you think of all the great films, they never do it on their own, do they? No. Harry Potter doesn't do it on his own.
No.
He's Hermione and Ron, doesn't he? And all his friends at Hogwarts. So, and that's what it's like for us. And this goes back into that connection, and the connection is the consciousness. And you'll find that when a group of people are doing that kind of work and that kind of training, they've got a similar consciousness. They're not got the consciousness of, I want to get my Ferrari and get drunk and drive it on a Saturday night. They haven't got that consciousness. They've got a different type of consciousness that wants to go on this hero's journey. So, yeah, really important work. So thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute delight. Thank you, Tracy Jane and Deborah Marie.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely amazing to be here with you.
Thank you.
Absolutely loved it. And you must come back, because so many other things I'd love to ask you. I'm running out of time today, but I would love you to come back. Join us.
Sure, I'd love to come back. I'd be delighted, as always, to talk to you ladies.
So thank you so much from all of us at awakeninghorizons.com, and we look forward to hearing your stories of transformation very soon. Thank you.